Hey everyone, here I am with the ZimaBoard, and you can see I have many different things connected to it. So last week I did an unboxing and first look at this flexible single board computer, and since then I've had the ZimaBoard connected to my local network via my cloud switch, and that has allowed me to test Sata OS, which is what the ZimaBoard comes pre-installed with. So I'll do a video about Sata OS and all its applications in the future. But today, I'd just like to talk about this Frankenstein's monster setup of cables going everywhere. Now, I pointed out in the last video, the ZimaBoard has a circuit board that's bigger than the Raspberry Pi, and it's also heavier because you've got this big, large heatsink on top, which I think looks nice, but it does add size and weight. But naked, the most minimal setup, you're going to have the power adapter for power, and you'll probably have an Ethernet cable to your router perhaps for connection to your local network and perhaps the internet as well. Now, if you don't want to use the ZimaBoard next to your router and your house isn't wired, you could remove the Ethernet cable and have a Wi-Fi card here, like so. Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6E card. And that is a good use case for many because you could have a different part of the house with a Wi-Fi card, and then you've got dual Ethernet here, dual gigabit Ethernet, and you've got two Ethernet ports, one to a laptop, one to your games console, and you've got connection to the internet as well. So that's a really minimal setup, but it's a very practical setup as well, that you've got connection to the internet, connection to your local network, but you've still got two Ethernet ports there as well. Another use case though, and one which will kind of generate a spaghetti junction, is storage. I am planning on, I'll just show you actually, it's next to me. I am planning on getting a 4 or 5 or 6 bay NAS. I've got a lot of 18 terabyte drives that I've taken out my main PC, and I'm going to put them into a NAS. But I think a NAS or a media server or a file, sharer, I think that's a great use case for the ZimaBoard. You'll get those options in Sata OS, but you can install many other different applications that allow you to do that as well, on RAID, for example. So it is a good use case, and it does show you how this could end up looking. So down at the bottom of the ZimaBoard, you've obviously got power and you've got the SATA connections here. So you've got two SATA connections. Now, I've added this whole 2.5-inch drive I've found. I think this might actually be out on a PS3 or something. It's really old, but I really just wanted to show you what it would look like. If you were using this for storage, you would buy an SSD. That's what I would recommend. 1 or 2 2.5-inch SSDs. Now, the ZimaBoard can power one 3.5-inch mechanical drive or two 2.5-inch drives. Now, if you're going to power two, then what I recommend is buying the very affordable SATA Y cable. $4 plus shipping. You can buy it elsewhere as well. There's a few other shops that sell it. And that allows you to connect two SSDs, 2.5-inch drives. And you can power it using that single connection, that single cable. Very good use case. Now, if you're going to be doing that, you can set 1 or 2 drives underneath like that. And I think that's still quite a minimal setup. Like, obviously right now I've got it hanging out here. It looks terrible. But if you had 2 drives, you could have, say you've got other hard drives about the place, you could just connect the other one and they just sit underneath like that. So I think that's a really good use case for the ZimaBoard, that you connect 1 or 2 SSDs. You use it for media, you use it for a NAS, you use it for storage. Very good use case, and you just make sure the cables are not pulled too hard and just sit them underneath like that. Now, at the back, you can see 2 Ethernet cables are connected. I've also got USB, there's 2 USB 3.0 ports here. I've got a USB flash drive in here, and then I've got this, and this actually is an NVMe drive in there. Now, you're not going to get 3000 megabytes per second plus with an NVMe drive here. You're going to be limited to USB 3.0 speeds, but that is another option. You don't have to use those SATA ports. You don't have to use them just because they're there. There's 2 USB ports at the back. And one thing I will say, over the last few years, storage prices have crashed. They're really, really cheap right now. I picked up this 64 gigabyte drive the other week for, it was like £4 or something. It was incredibly cheap. So if you're happy with USB 3.0 speeds, you could just stick a few flash drives at the back and, boot from whatever you want to, Ubuntu, or use it to boot some other images onto the embedded drive, which is on the motherboard. So You've got a lot of options there with the dual gigabit Ethernet and with the, with the USB connection there as well. There's obviously a mini display port there as well if you want to connect to a monitor, but for the life of me, I could not find my mini display port cable. Now, the last connection, which I've not really showed you yet, is that PCI Express 2x4. Now, this particular card has an NVMe and two M2 SSDs, but it's kind of irrelevant because you're going to get the slower speeds here anyway. Now, this is a good example because this card shows one of the issues you're going to run into with the ZimaBoard. When you connect it like so, you will see that I can't connect because the metal connection at the bottom here, which normally kind of sticks into your PC case next to your motherboard, it's going to hit there. And that's a problem. I can't connect this now. I just can't connect this card. Now, I could connect this card because it's just LED indicators. I could remove this here and then make it ZimaBoard friendly. That is an option. Now, if you look on the official website, you'll notice that some cards, for example, this PCI Express to NVMe SSD adapter, they don't have that. That's going to work, no issues. These are the ones I assume have been tested and they do work. Now, the reason I'm showing you all this is because not all PCI Express cards are going to be able to be adaptable to the ZimaBoard. Some just won't fit just because the way this is designed, and it's just what you have to deal with. So my recommendation is to look at the cards that are on ZimaBoard Shop, or go to the ZimaBoard Discord group and look at what people are using. Look at what other cards people have bought, what they've used, what they've tested to see if it not only fits, but if there's drivers there for your particular operating system. So the PCI Express slot, the card slot here, it's very, very useful, very flexible, but you do have to make sure that you get a card where you can actually remove this or just get one that works out of the box. But don't let it put you off. There's a lot of card options that you can get here. Wi-Fi cards, storage cards, and there's 10 gigabit Ethernet card. There's cards that have got a few 2.5 gigabit Ethernet connection options. So very, very flexible. But you can just imagine you've got a few flash drives, you've got a few SSDs kind of connected here. Maybe a USB option here with NVMe drives. This is kind of how it's going to look like at the end. It's going to have, this amount of cables going out. Now, this is simultaneously why a lot of people hate the ZimaBoard and why a lot of people love it. Now, I can relate to why some people don't like the ZimaBoard because, just the idea that you connect the PCI Express card slot here and then you add some SSDs, this portable solution is no longer portable and you've got cables everywhere. I get it. I do get it. And I do think for a lot of people, you might be better just, buying an Intel NUC PC, one of those little mini PCs. I do get it. But for someone like me that's had computers for years, this is kind of why I love the ZimaBoard. I love the fact you can install many different operating systems, and I love the fact you've got all these different software and application options. But another reason is that I can utilize old hard drives, and if I'm not using a hard drive in my main PC or in a NAS, I can just hook it up here and use it for something else. Or if I take a card out of my main PC, I upgrade my Wi-Fi card, I can stick the old one here and use it. Or, I can utilize some old flash drives. I can test some different Linux builds and different things just by, sticking in a USB flash drive. So I like this just from an experimental point of view, and from, for someone like myself, it allows me to use all the older drives and cards that I've got. But I do think some people do have a valid point. Once you start, connecting everything, you've got a bigger solution, and you might have just been as well using a Raspberry Pi or using a different single board computer. But for me, I love the flexibility this offers here and the fact that I can install the Wi-Fi cards and I can install all these different things. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I do realize I've kind of been all over the place here, but I've wanted to show you what this will actually look like in practice. Depending on your use case, the ZimaBoard can be very minimal, just power and Ethernet, or just power and a Wi-Fi card, or just power, Ethernet and Wi-Fi card and a USB flash drive. But if you wish, you can connect some SSDs for storage, and if you wish, you can install a PCI Express card. And pretty much double the size of the ZimaBoard. It really is up to you. It's flexible, but there are some, there are some negatives there. There are some limitations that you have to be aware of. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this kind of bizarre look at the ZimaBoard, perhaps how you would use it in practice. Maybe it's got some, got the juices flowing, maybe giving you some ideas as to how you could use this yourself. Please do stay tuned. I'll show you Sata OS in the next video, and I'll talk about the pros, the cons, what I like about it, etc. So please do stay tuned for that. And until next time, take care.